Well, I will give Marilyn this. We don't need a lengthy introduction. So, if you're just coming into this debate, and I want to reach new people because the analytics tell me I gotta reach out to newer people. So, the Aftermath people and the SPTV people don't get along. Now, if you ask why, there are top 5 reasons and top 5 people, and Marilyn is one of them. And this video does a pretty good job of showing how and why there is such a split, although it is still a bit of a puzzlement because, well, there's no nice way of putting it. She's not exactly the brightest bulb. She's a fairly crude person, and you can definitely pity her. She's a survivor of a very fanatical Christian cult. But like a lot of the survivors of those fanatical religious cults, she just traded in one cult for another. And now, fairness, I did not listen to the whole sermon because this is definitely a preacher style. I'm just going to note 2 things. One is how radically inconsistent she is. Because at the beginning, the preface, she was all smiling and happy. She wasn't really upset at all. Because the whole mode here is to read from her letter, which is not exactly a brilliant literary work and was marred by many spelling, semantic, and grammatical errors. But again, I'm not going to make too much of that. Even I make some errors there, but boy, it was a mess. It was a mess. So let's get to it. Let us hear a slice of her righteous indignation about the Church of Uranus being offended.
People leaving Scientology was announced, it was discovered that the YouTube handle SPTV Foundation had been already taken by malicious trolls. I had long since given up on doing videos about the Aftermath Foundation, but in the past 6 months, it's been nonstop malicious videos about me and others coming from this site, from these nameless, faceless cowards. Until that is, their need for clout and recognition got the best of them, and they started to slip up and show themselves. Surely you know by now that the dots have been.
Well, as I said, I didn't listen to the whole thing, so maybe I missed, 90 minutes of brilliance because this whole thing is 2.5 hours. Yeah, but again, the central core is about an hour of her preaching nonsense, literally, because none of this added up in terms of the substance that Claire Headley apparently is running the show of a massive conspiracy to destroy Uranus. Evidence for this? Basically zero. But anyway, now let me note the second thing that Marilyn is, well, she's been a hypocrite for a while, but she's actually a more massive hypocrite than usual because only a few weeks ago she was like, it's now an era of peace, and I have apologized to Stephanie. And to give her credit, apparently, Stephanie acknowledged there was an apology. And then for one weekend, there was peace. But then, like Superman 3, she decided to go back to, being bad. It doesn't fit the plot exactly because there Superman became bad, and that was the twist. But anyway, so Dark Marilyn took a vacation for about 72 hours. So there you go. Let's keep it straight. Nixon and China went for about, 20 years apiece before there was a renewal of hostilities. Maryland has settled for 48 hours. And there we are. So, yeah, if you want more of her ungrammatical verbiage, there you go. Help yourselves. Usually I do try to work at the commentaries, but really there's not much to respond to. I mean, this style of address, it can be done well, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson, right? He can do some preaching. Even the late Wittgenstein, you can call a preacher. So you can do a preaching style that is substantive, right? Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, you go through the list. It can be done. However, when you do sermonize and moralize, you need a little credibility to do that. Otherwise, it's going to come off like pretty phony. And boy, I have suffered through so many of her sermons, and it's just always the same thing. Ah, goods. Aaron goods. You bads. The enemy bads. It's like, okay, Marilyn, why are they bad? They bad. They talked about my children's. Of course, Marilyn will talk about other people's children all the time, but, there you go. So just at the basic level, there's nothing too deep. So I'm probably going to be using a lot of Joel Osteen, right? or is it Osten? Anyway, and I want to be fair to Joel. I have not heard his stuff in its entirety, so I want to give that a chance. But, it is mimicking that style very much. Like, hallelujah, brothers. Hallelujah, sisters. It's coming. The apocalyptics is gathering forces, and God will not be mocked. I'm here to tell you the truth, the real truth in the Bibles. And the truth is most frightening, and so on, and so on, and so on. And again, if you really believe, again, I'm not mocking people who honestly believe. I mean, again, these are serious texts. Millions upon millions of people believe these texts. Whether those people are rational, we'll put to one side. But again, you can sort of see why Joel has such a big church because, there's something going on there. But Marilyn is just not that talented. Again, I try to avoid ad hominems, but we're talking about a woman with a very basic education. And when I mean basic, I mean it's really, really basic. So she's just not very good at this lying game and trying to maintain consistency because there really isn't any. She just will do propaganda for Aaron, do more propaganda for Aaron, take a 1 day rest, and then back to propaganda for Aaron.
My God, that letter I got was just, you'd think I was worse than, somebody in Germany, like that guy, that leader in Germany.
That's it. There's nothing really deep going on. But I will say this, that when Aaron is trying to imitate, certain German people, well, it comes off a little weird because, again, Aaron is not stupid, but he's also not that intelligent. So him trying to play the intellectual and try to refute people in logical puzzles and pretzels is like, I don't understand. I don't understand. Let me just give one sample, but I'll try to be serious and break down stuff in the future. But he always tries to grab people in what seem to be refutations, but it's like, that's not a refutation. So he'll go like, now I have declared peace, but Claire no declare. Why? All these attacks and these bad videos. Claire stays silent. Ergo cogito sum. I can only conclude that Claire herself is Peter Jensen, and Peter Jensen is Claire. That is the logics of my argument. And I understand what he's trying to say, that Claire is not out loud saying, please leave Aaron alone. But, that's not really a thing. Like, her lack of saying to be nice to Aaron does not mean she's really heading up a massive conspiracy. It doesn't work like that. You need to give actual evidence. It's not very convincing. But at least Aaron tries to construct an argument. However bizarre it is an argument. Marilyn really doesn't do that. I mean, even in this big letter she's reading from, like, what did she say? She said, we got the evidences and the receiptos. And they are what exactly? That Aaron heard some voice messages and she doesn't like this girl who does some online work for the Aftermath. That's it. That's the conspiracy. There you go. So at least with Marilyn Honig, that's her actual name, at least with Marilyn Honig, her acting Germanic makes sense because that's kind of her tradition. So there you go. So she's getting back to her roots. I don't know if that's a good idea. German history is very interesting, very complicated. It is not just, a crazy Austrian painter. On the other hand, it does seem she's trying to revive that part of German history. Now, whether it's going to work out for her, I don't know, but I will say it was mostly tiresome and pretty damn silly. So she's going to preach. She's going to have to study a little bit more because this preaching is, it's not very convincing.
Very weird. So they have like their little mini cult going on.